John, the Angels send mom home with a victory on Sunday.
Yeah, they
What
did.
an incredible game and what an incredible weekend series. And you and I, we're going to talk all about it because that's what we do. Plus, you guys wanted to talk a lot about the Angels. You sent in questions and questions and questions and more questions. And
That's
so we're
right.
going to cover all of them. You're locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening on the audio side, you can rate and review the pod. And if you're watching on the video side, you can subscribe and click that bell to be notified every time a new episode hits. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props and odds and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts.
What's going on? Thanks for joining us for this edition of Locked On Angels. We're so happy that you decided to join us. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
You got the Frisch brothers here with you, aka the Super Halo Bros, and we're celebrating a series weekend victory against the Nationals.
Fist
and it didn't
pump,
come easy.
Fist up.
Like Shohei at the end of the game.
Yes,
oh man, that
he
was great
so
to
excited.
see.
Yeah,
that was awesome, man. That did not come easy.
No.
But the Angels got it done, and it came off the bats of Shohei Ohtani and Anthony Rendon with some help from Taylor Ward, and then just promoted Luis Rengifo got that lead, not a leadoff walk, but a walk after the first out. So that was great to see. But man, Let's break down what happened this weekend, Mike.
All right, so the Angels enter the weekend at 17-10. It's their second best start in the 27 game start in Angel history. Other teams went 18-9. The most recent actually was the 1995 Angels. And so let's talk about Friday night. Jonathan Diaz is the starter,
our boy,
and actually looked great. Yeah, I feel like he's part of the family because you and I saw him pitch really well last year, and he pitched really well on Friday night, extremely well. 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 4 Ks, just 67 pitches. His only blemish was the 3 walks. And Diaz was really matched by the Nationals pitcher, Adon. He pitched really well and only trailed 1-0, but then the 5th inning happened, and the Angels added 2 more runs. Mike Trout had that huge 2-run double in the 8th. And I'm sorry, his 8th double in the 5th inning and made it 3-0. And then, of course, Taylor Ward was on base almost every single time. He had 3 walks and 2 runs scored in that game. And really, the key moments for the Angels was their defense. They had 2 incredible double plays in this game, and that seems to be happening more often for this team, and it's really what a successful team does, right? When they're in trouble, they're able to turn the double play, and they win on Friday night 3-0. John, it was their 5th shutout this season, and that was more than the last 4 seasons combined.
Really?
And all the Angel fans said, amen, right?
Good grief, man.
We have felt that. We haven't had great pitching, obviously. And yet Friday night, Jonathan Diaz sets the standard and looks great. What about Saturday, John?
Saturday, we had Michael Lorenzen on the bump. And unfortunately, it was not the performance that he had recently had in Chicago, where he went 8 1/3. This one was a little bit more rough. He kept the Angels in the game. His stat line broke down to 4 2/3. 5 hits, 5 runs, and 7 Ks over 89 pitches.
Yeah.
And kind of the crutch there was that he was taken out before the end of the 4th or the 5th, and Elvis Peguero came in. And by the end of it, everyone was saying, please, Elvis, leave the building. Because Joe didn't give Lorenzen the chance to get out of that inning. And it made sense to bring in somebody, but Peguero's just not ready. He immediately gave up a 2-run home run, and the Angels were able to hit some home runs. Walsh had a solo shot. Brandon Marsh had a 2-run home run. So you started to think that they were going to come back, but it ended up being a 7-3 loss. So it just wasn't enough, and kind of disappointing because the game felt like it was within reach, and there were just some bullpen decisions that, were questionable. I think Peguero will be great, just not right now. It felt like last year's bullpen where you're going to a guy that you're just not quite sure about. And he could not locate any pitches. He was throwing that fastball And I think he had like 5 straight out of the zone in a row. And so I just think that he's better stayed in AAA for now.
Yeah. I think that Lorenzen should have at least been given a shot to get one more batter. I feel like he got pulled way too early. And then when Peguero came in and gave up the immediate runs, it was like, hindsight's 2020, but that's one of those things that we've talked about often. Joe, you got to keep him in there. Yeah. And if you go back to the Guardians series, what I loved about what the Guardians were able to do is they left their starting pitchers in the game.
They did
try to figure it out, and they figured it out. It didn't put them in a deficit. They were able to fight through the 5th and fight through the 6th inning and even get to the 7th inning in some cases. And so I think this is one of those moments where you had to let Lorenzen at least go one more batter, because really the benefit would have been that he's going to be strong there, and you're not bringing in somebody like Peguero.
I know that he gave up a solo shot in the first and the second, but the rest of them were balls on the ground for Lorenzen.
Right.
And there's a huge difference between scoring runs on hits that are getting through and getting by the defense, and then there's giving up a 2-run home run to Nelson Cruz, right?
Yeah. Right.
So that's the big difference. Tell us about Sunday, Mike.
The game that we all want to talk about is the Sunday game. I mean, that was one of those games where, honestly, as an Angel fan, you're a bit frustrated, right? Because they had opportunities to score. I personally was a little bit frustrated with Rendon because he wasn't coming through. And you and I've talked a lot about Angel players having that Angel moment, right? Years ago, Torrey Hunter hitting the walk-off home run. And then just recently, Taylor Ward having that moment against the Sox. And then now here's an opportunity for Rendon to do that. And he wasn't coming through in this game. And it looked like it's going to be just 4-2, right? Like we're going to lose this game, and we're kind of falling back into our slump that we were in last year. And then Angels get on base and things start to look good, and there's 2 outs, and Ohtani comes up and hits that double off the wall, right? And then Rendon has a moment where he knocks in the run, and Ohtani, of course, is quick. And so he was going to score, or at least attempt to score, no matter what. And Phil Nevin was sending him no matter what.
All the way.
And Ohtani sliding in and then immediately fist pumping, I think was the excitement that he felt was the excitement that we felt. Had some friends that were at the game, and they said that the energy, it was electric in that stadium. But I think that this is Rendon's moment, right? This is Rendon's moment where it clicks. This is his moment where he is he's endeared to us, right? Yeah. And so I loved it. I was excited about that. Your boy Sandoval pitched really well. He didn't pitch bad. 5 2/3, 3 runs, 7 hits, 5 Ks. And something that Gubaza was saying on the broadcast is that when Sandoval's top half is matching his bottom half, they're all in rhythm. He's going really great. He's not stomping his foot on the mound. That actually is a sign that he's doing really well. And by the way, good to have Gubaza back in the broadcast booth. Did an excellent job. We missed his takes, but it was such a great game, man. And to be able to be 19-11 at this point in the season is awesome. It's our best 30-game start since 2004, John.
Hey, that's a good year.
We were 20-10 that year. And so this is our best 30-game start since then. So it feels so good. And now we got the Rays, Joe's former team, coming to town today. We're going to play them. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I think that what I really appreciated about this Sunday game was that guys were picking each other up. I know that Mayfield hit a 2-run pinch hit, and then he struck out to begin the 9th. Rengifo picked him up with a walk, and then Taylor Ward hit him over to third, and then Trout struck out. And you're thinking, oh man, but these guys just continue to pick each other up and not let each other down. So we'll get into what that's going to look like here in just a minute when we get to our mailbag. So let's get into that here in just a minute.
Coming up on Locked On Angels, John and I will answer all your Halo questions. But first, Locked On Angel is brought to you by BetOnline. Check out betonline.net. It's your #1 source for all your betting stats and sporting info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and, of course, Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs to esports and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about trends and actions. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And now for your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. You get recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts. John has done our Locked On Now in the last few weeks and has done an incredible job. You get a quick update as to what happened with teams across Major League Baseball. It takes fans through the season like no other network, and it's free, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts.
We had a ton of mailbag questions and even a voicemail. So if you want to give us a call on our voicemail anytime, 714-409-6396. That, of course, will be in the episode description below or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go to a voicemail from Blake out of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Here we go.
Hey, this is Blake reporting from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I just had a quick question for you guys. Well, more of a comment, but it feels that the Angels are starting to return back to kind of what we expected of them, and it feels that way with Ohtani and seeing Rendon continue to struggle, and although he's putting together better plate appearances, he still continues to struggle to put the ball in play, and Taylor Ward, last few days, has been cooling off a little bit. How do you feel this projects for the rest of the season? Thank you.
Thanks, Blake, for giving us a call out of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I refuse to say slow. I don't like when people say slow, Blake.
Yeah.
I refuse. Now, on the same on the same vein, there was this question from Emmanuel. He said, "Are you concerned at all about the inconsistencies of the offense outside of Ward and Trout?" So kind of a similar question.
Yeah.
Blake's came in earlier in the week when we were struggling a bit against the White Sox. So when it comes to just these guys who are struggling to put some good plate appearances together, I think that you have to remember that hitters will go through slumps.
Sure.
And that's going to happen to every single player on the team. And now the difference is, and like we saw on Sunday, can the other guys around them pick them up when they're in a slump? Now,
right.
Hopefully not everybody goes into a slump all at the same time. But for example, we had some guys not being able to put it together against the Red Sox. However, Jared Walsh comes through and scores more than half of his RBIs in the season in those two games in Boston. So it's just a matter of guys are going to go through slumps. That's inevitable, and it happens to the best. I mean, it can happen to Trout. He rarely goes into a slump, but it can happen to Ohtani, of course, and these guys will put it together. It might just not all click at the same time. But what do you think, Mike?
I think if it's June, I would be a bit more concerned.
Sure.
But it's still May, and I think that they're finding their way. The thing that I have to keep reminding myself of is that spring training was shortened.
Yeah.
And so that affects pitchers, but it also affects hitters. I mean,
Big
they're
time.
at a place now where the season would have been already started, but not a month in or almost a month and a half in, right?
Mm-hmm.
If spring training played itself out. And so these guys are still getting their timing down. They're still figuring out pitch counts and how to hit the ball and where to hit the ball and those things. And so I think that if it's June, I would be a bit more concerned, but I'm going to give them a bit of grace because it is only May. And I agree with your point that it's important that not all of them struggle. There's going to have to be somebody that steps up. And that's the hope with this lineup, right?
Yeah.
Because they have that ability. And now with the opportunity in front of them, let's hope that they lean into their skills and they are actually able to score runs when the rest of the lineup is struggling.
So there's a couple of questions here that I'm going to get to, and they all kind of center around this one thing. So this is from Robert Henderson on YouTube. He said, "The Angels are still in contention at the trade deadline. Do you think we use Adele as a trade chip for pitching, with Ward starting to establish himself and Marsh showing great potential? I think Adele might be the best trade piece we have." Now, on that note, our good friend Jason Burke over at Locked On A's actually had a thought, and he shared this idea. He said, "Hey, Locked On Angels, would you be interested in Frankie Montas for a package that includes Joe Adele?" Now, I did do a little bit of research, Mike.
Okay.
And I just did a screenshot, but if you,
that's still research.
These are Montas's stats. And so far, Montas in 2022, it has a 2-2 record. Of course, that's with a struggling Oakland team who doesn't have its superstars that they had last year. But look at that ERA, 3.44. He's keeping it under 4.
Yeah.
And we know that he has been in Cy Young voting in the past, including 2021. And Montas is just a great arm. And I think he's the kind of guy who can give you a lot of innings, a lot of starts, and a lot of strikeouts. So what do you think about Jason's idea of, he said, Adele in a package for Frankie Montas? I think that's kind of the key word there. What do you think?
I if it's a straight up deal, I'm in.
Yeah.
If it's a package, I think I would want to know who that second player is. But here's why I would be in on trading Adele. We have held on to players in the past for way too long. There was that rumored trade where we were going to get Roy Halladay, and a part of that package was Brandon Wood. And we refused because we didn't want to trade Brandon Wood.
Oof.
And Ibar was also a part of that, and he was about to hit his prime.
Yeah.
And so the reason why they held back, though, was because of Wood. And we all know how that turned out, and we know how Roy Halladay turned out, right? And when we've traded players that were prospects for great players, it actually has worked out for us. Like, think about when we traded Sean Newcomb to the A's for Andrelton Simmons, right? And Ibar was a part of that. That worked out for us, and now Newcomb was DFA'd. And so I'm in on a trade for a pitcher for Joe Adele. I don't know if I would want to package anything more for somebody like a Frankie Montas. I feel like Frankie's good, and maybe I'm sounding ridiculous right now, but the truth is I think that we would want to get somebody better, maybe, because Montas feels like Michael Lorenzen, which I think would slot in our rotation really great. I'm just not sure if we want to give too much up for somebody like Montas, who only has like 1 year left of arbitration, or maybe 1.5 years or something.
Yeah,
like
he's
that.
got this year and next year, and I think you got more longevity out of Joe Adele. So I think for me, that's a one-on-one swap. I think that's 1-to-1. I don't think you package anything else, because if the Angels want to win now, like Robert was saying in his question, he said it feels like this is the year for the Angels with Ward establishing himself. And if we're going to be in contention at that trade deadline, I think going out and getting that one more arm is a really good idea. And if it costs you an Adele to get to the World Series, then there you go. And you still have another year of Montas. So I think that's a pretty good trade offer. Like I said, like you said, and I said, I don't think a package, I think a 1-to-1 deal might make the most sense for both sides.
Well, and Adele's going to play every day in Oakland if he gets traded there.
Right.
And he's going to get at-bats, which he needs in the major leagues. He doesn't need at-bats in the minor leagues because he's showing that he's owned the minor leagues.
He's already tearing it up in the minor leagues.
He needs
there like
at-bats in the major leagues. He needs to figure it out. Yeah.
On the same note, we have Michael Torres from Twitter. He said, I know it's early, but we need one more starter to really be World Series contenders, and the Reds are about to unload talent. So how about the Angels receive Luis Castillo, and this is an infielder, shortstop, Ellie De La Cruz, and the Reds receive Joe Adele, Jose Suarez, Kai Busch, and cash considerations. What do you feel about that trade?
Man, again, I'm in on considering some of these things. I think where I'm hesitant is it feels like we're giving up a lot.
In that scenario,
right, for two of those guys. And there's some interesting stats on Castillo, and there's also a question about like his shoulder. And talk about that for a moment.
He's starting for the first time today against the Brewers, and the shoulder strain is kind of something new. But he's owed $7,350,000 this year.
Yeah.
And next year is his third year of arbitration. So Castillo would be somebody that you could hold on to. But I think when it comes to Castillo, I don't know if he's the guy for the Angels wanting to win now. I think you got to make a move. I know that we're not the Dodgers in the way that we make trades or the way that we operate sometimes.
Yeah.
But their Max Scherzer acquisition and Trey Turner last season was a win now move. That's the perfect example of a win now move. And if the Angels find themselves there by July, I don't think Castillo is a win now move. I think that you've got to go for a stronger arm. Like we said, a 1-to-1 swap with Montas because he's got that extra year. That might be a win now move. But I'm sure that a package that includes Joe Adele, Jose Suarez, Kai Busch, and money would be something that the Angels would want to use to get a win now arm. And Ellie De La Cruz, it looks to be a good prospect in the Red system, but we have tons of middle infielders. and shortstop guys coming up.
We've been a factory over the last few years.
Yeah.
That's all that we have, it seems, for a while until we drafted like 19 guys or signed 19 guys out of 20, right?
Yeah. So I think we're okay in terms of middle infield. So yeah, lots of questions about Joe Adell being part of a trade package and some interesting considerations here. But again, Mike and I agree, it's got to be that big arm that's going to win you the series and take you to the playoffs. Absolutely.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by Built Bar. Summer is coming and you're going to need some food on the go. And Built Bars are a perfect snack to take with you on all your family vacations. You make sure that everyone has a bar so that you're fueled for your summer adventures. And the best part about Built Bar is they're healthy and they're delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both. You can have it all, John. All you have to do is go to Built.com and order right now. The Built Bars and Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. And if you haven't tried the Built Puffs yet, man, you need to. They are delicious, and they come in great flavors like banana cream pie and even churro. And who doesn't want a protein bar that tastes like a churro, right? Like, so that sounds delicious. And every Built Bar is only 130 to 140 calories. So if you can't decide on a flavor, you can also get the mix box. It's 12 Built Bars, a mix of bars and puffs. Built Bars make sure that there is something for everyone. So go to Built.com and get your favorites: banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, more. Check it out at Built.com. They're delicious and new flavors are coming out all the time. So again, go to Built.com today and you can use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% at Built.com and get yourself a Built Bar today.
All right, getting into our last segment for this Monday, we've got kind of some scattered questions, Mike.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get those pulled up here right now. So let's go here. Lisa Turk on Twitter at Turbos Lady 9493. She says, "What are your thoughts on Juan Lagares maybe returning?" Now we got the news that he did sign a minor league contract. It's more of an outfield depth move. He has experience that Adell and Marsh don't. Good or bad? Mike, what do you think?
I think it's a good move because I think he brings solid defense.
Yeah.
He can be a little flashy offensively, and I think we need a little bit of flash offensively. I think that he can step in when the lineup is struggling. And I think the alternatives really call for us to make this move because obviously Rojas is hurt, but he's not really a great outfielder for us. And we really don't have anybody else outside of Adell. If it's Adell, bring him up. But again, Adell needs at-bats. And I think Juan Lagares is a great relief for any of the guys in the outfield and can play anywhere and cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, and even though the bat might not be as strong as some of our other outfielders, we have the rest of the lineup to pick them up. So again, that goes back to what we talked about before, that these guys need to pick each other up like they did on Sunday and pick each other up when they're going through rough patches. Hey, here's one, Mike. From Riley Frisch. She says, "Hey guys, big fan." Of course, I hope she is. "I really think Jared Walsh should be in there against left-handed pitchers. He's really proven himself. What do you guys think?" What do you think, Mike?
Being an Angel fan in my family is a requirement. So that's why she asked that question. Yeah, I think it's a great observation. And I think that he should be in there every day. And the splits, I think, prove that against right-handed batters: 247, 445 on base, a 765 OPS. And if you see his left-handed splits, he's hitting 304.
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
Right? Like with a 333 on base and a 724 OPS. So, I mean, his numbers are better offensively overall against left-handed pitchers. And I think he has proven himself with his hit against the Sox and then last year against Chapman when in that rain delay game. I think that he has earned the right to be in there. And reality is there really isn't somebody else that can switch off with him at first base now that Duffy has been put on the IL. And so I think he's got to be in there, and he's got to be in there every day because he has proven to be our everyday first baseman. And just on the defensive side is where we really need him, right? Because those throws over to first base, he has saved a lot of errors. And so I think he's got to be in there every day.
I think he needs to be in there every day too, even if Matt Duffy is healthy. I think Walsh needs to be playing first base unless he needs a day off. But Walsh, like you said, he defensively is magnificent over there, and he needs to be there to make those plays. And what this tells me is that he's making really good contact against lefties, and because his on base percentage is higher against righties, he's seeing the ball better, and he knows when to take walks against righties, which it makes sense if you're a lefty-righty matchup. And so I really think that he needs to be in there every day. He's proving that he can overcome those splits. All right. So let's go to this question from Twitter. Disappointed Angels fan at Double O Dudes Twitter. He says, is the MVP award just going to be the player with the highest WAR? Seems kind of like the trend. I know this stat has a lot that goes into it, but there has to be some intangibles that don't quite fall into WAR calculations. Now, that's a good question.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring up what exactly goes into WAR. So here is the formula for that. For position players, it's the number of runs above average a player is worth in his batting, base running, fielding, and adjusting for the position, meaning comparing to other first basemen compared to other first basemen, so on and so forth.
Right.
Adjustment for the league, and the number of runs provided by a replacement level player divided by runs per win. So that is the formula for position players. When it comes to pitchers, there's different kinds of WAR that get calculated, but they're adjusted for the league and the ballpark. And then using the league averages, it's determined how many wins a pitcher was worth based on those numbers and his innings pitched total. So those are the formulas there. So when it comes to, I understand what Disappointed Angel fan is saying with there's intangibles you can't really calculate into WAR or any stat, really.
Right.
And those are things like momentum and that sort of stuff. But I also think that for the longest time, writers who vote in the MVP discussion have been using stats like batting average and RBIs and home runs. You talked about the other day that in the 90s, you looked at RBIs because those are the guys you wanted on your team. Who did you bring up from the Rangers? Juan Gonzalez. Yeah, he had all the RBIs in the world. But the thing is as we can break down analytics and stats more, we can understand the value of a player even better with things like WAR because they go beyond the batting average and the RBIs and the home runs and even pitching wins. And so, yes, I think that to answer the question, that it is becoming whoever has the highest WAR. But I also think that that's a much more accurate place than where we used to be when it comes to stats. What are your thoughts?
I will answer that question with a question.
Okay.
Do you want the MVP to be the one that has had the most impact? And that's what WAR measures.
Right.
It measures impact, right? And so that's why they've leaned more in that direction. I'm with this fan in the idea that I would love to see some of those other intangibles. You know, I'm a huge fan of home runs and average and OPS and RBIs and all of that stuff. But I do want the MVP to be somebody that has had a huge impact. And that's why I think WAR is the greatest measurement that we have right now. Right. And it's why Mike Trout has been in the running almost every year for the MVP because he's had the highest WAR because when he plays, as we've seen, he's had the greatest impact.
Exactly. And Ohtani being able to do both of what he does with pitching and hitting and combining those WARs, I don't think Ohtani, the hitter, is an MVP. I think Ohtani, the complete package, is an MVP. I think that would have been Vlad Jr.'s MVP last season, if not for the fact that Ohtani could do both.
Right.
Speaking of MVPs, let's go to this question here from Kenbo Drennan at Mamba Trout on Twitter. You guys are the best names. I can't decide if I love Trout or Ohtani more. Assuming Ohtani reaches his maximum potential, who will have the better career? Trout is the GOAT, but Ohtani is a two-way player phenom no one has ever seen. What do you think, Mike?
I really think that this is going to be difficult to answer. I think my answer would be there's going to be a day where we're going to tell our grandkids that we saw Trout and Ohtani in the same lineup, the same way that our grandparents or great-grandparents said that they saw DiMaggio and Mantle in the same lineup, right? And I don't think that you can compare the two because let me ask you, who's had the better career, DiMaggio or Mantle? That's hard, right? Who are you going to pick?
And I was hoping that was a hypothetical that I didn't have to answer.
Your eyes, if you're watching on YouTube, John's eyes got huge. And because it's hard to make a decision and a determination about who it is. As of right now, I would say that Trout is in the running because he's played longer, right? And has had more of an impact. But Ohtani's changed the game. Like this
Right.
two-way player now is just something we say like when we talk about hitting a double, right? Like it's just natural. It's part of our conversation. And so I think that what we're going to walk away with is we're going to walk away going, how privileged were we to have the opportunity to watch these two amazing players play at the same time?
I like that a lot. If I have to rip the Band-Aid off, I'm going to say Trout. I think Trout is more consistent over his career. He is continuing to impress and not regress. And I think that when we look back at his career, we will all be in awe of the something special that we got to witness. Now, I understand Ohtani is just as capable of doing that, but I think if I had to gamble on it, I would say Trout has the most consistent career when it comes to these two having the better career, in my opinion. Good. Last question. This is a fun one from Brian O on Instagram. What's your favorite piece of Angels memorabilia that you guys own? Mine is a small souvenir bat signed by the great Torrey Hunter.
Oh, that's
Mike,
rad.
what's your favorite piece of memorabilia?
I have a Tim Salmon autographed baseball, but here's where I'm bummed about it. It's not in what they call the sweet spot. You know, like where the autograph goes across that side of the ball. It's kind of like off to the side. And I felt like he did it on purpose, right? You know, and so Tim, if you're listening, I know you're listening. I'm going to need an autograph in the sweet spot.
We got to redo that.
What about you?
My favorite is you and I went to spring training in 2008, and I had a ball from practice that a ton of the minor leaguers signed. Now I have no idea who was on there, and I even looked at the minor league roster from 2008, and the only ones I really recognized were Kendrys Morales, and he hadn't been called up yet. So maybe his signature is on there. I can't read any of them, but the one I did get was because he was on his way to the booth, and we caught him. Was Steve Physiak, and so I said, please. I was like, can you sign my ball? So he signed it. So I got his autograph on there, but there's a ton of players on that ball. And maybe I have a diamond in the rough there. I'm not sure, but thanks everybody for sending in your questions. That was really fun. And I hope that we got to everybody's questions that wanted to have us answer them. We'll continue to do this every Monday. And so don't forget to tweet at us and of course, call that voicemail line.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And now make your second listen, the Locked On MLB podcast, hosted by Paul Francis Sullivan. He brings his unique perspective on major leagues past and present, and it's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter, and you can connect with Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, if you're not watching on the YouTube side, you can search us by searching Locked On Angels, and you'll find our channel. Give us a subscribe. And make sure to like and comment because we love hearing from you guys. What do we have on deck for tomorrow, Mike?
Tomorrow on Locked On Angels, we're going to discuss this question. Did Jonathan Diaz just pitch his way into the starting rotation, and is Jose Suarez out? John and I will talk about that tomorrow.
All right, that sounds like a good conversation. I got to figure out where I stand on that one. But until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you right here tomorrow on Locked On Angels.